My wife cheated on me with her boss, then sued me for half our $400, $0 house and $200, $0 savings. She swore she still loved me, but I just found out she's been secretly planning to divorce me for months. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing all this down, but here I am. The worst part, it all started with a stupid little suspicion that turned into something I couldn't ignore. You see, my wife, Emily, always acted a little bitchy when things didn't go her way. She's the kind of woman who never admits fault, always blames someone else, and has a way of lying with that innocent look on her face that used to make me feel guilty for even questioning her. But the signs started stacking up, and I wish I had paid more attention from the beginning. It all began about 3 months ago. Emily started coming home later than usual, claiming she was stuck at work or had to meet with clients. At first, I just thought she was busy climbing the corporate ladder. She's a marketing executive, always trying to impress her boss, Richard. He's a smooth-talking guy in his late 40s with a silver streak in his hair and a way of making Emily laugh that I hadn't seen in a long time. She used to be affectionate, but lately she'd brush past me in the mornings, avoid intimacy, and always had some excuse: stress, tiredness, work pressures. But I could tell something was off. One night I decided to check her phone after she went to bed. I didn't want to do it, but I was starting to feel paranoid. I figured maybe I was overreacting. I had no reason to think she was cheating, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. That's when I found the texts. At first, it was innocent stuff, work messages, some jokes, but then I saw the messages escalate. Flirty comments, suggestive pictures, plans to meet up after hours. And the kicker, she called him my Richard more than once. That's when I knew for sure she was cheating on me. I felt my stomach drop. My heart started pounding. I couldn't breathe right. I had always suspected Emily was a little high maintenance, a little bitchy, but I never imagined she'd cheat. I mean, we have a life together, paid off a $400, $0 house, saved up about $200, $0 in our joint accounts. We were supposed to be building a future, but that future suddenly felt like a lie. I kept staring at the screen, reading those texts over and over, trying to process what I was seeing. I didn't want to believe it, but there it was, proof that she had been sneaking around for months. The next day I confronted her. I didn't hold back. I showed her the messages, laid everything out on the table. Her reaction. She looked surprised at first, then annoyed, like I was the one invading her privacy. She told me I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that Richard was just a friend, and that I was imagining things. She said I was insecure, that she still loved me, and that I was making a mountain out of a molehill. But I knew better. I could see the flicker of guilt behind her eyes, and I knew she was lying. She always lied with that bitchy smirk, like she thought she could manipulate me. I felt a whirlwind of emotions: anger, betrayal, sadness, and a deep, burning rage. I couldn't believe I was sitting here being played for a fool. She swore she still loved me, but her actions told a different story. I could see the plan forming in her mind, the way she brushed past me, avoiding eye contact, trying to act like everything was normal. But nothing was normal anymore. I was hurt and I was furious. The trust was shattered, and I realized the woman I married had been planning her escape for months. The worst part, she had the nerve to lie so convincingly, as if her betrayal was just a minor mistake. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what I'd do next. I felt stupid for trusting her, for thinking we had a solid life. But I also felt something else: determination. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything, especially not after what I'd seen. I knew I had to plan my next move carefully. I had to protect what was mine, what we built together. The house, the savings, everything. But more than that, I needed to figure out how to deal with the emotional fallout. Because right now I felt like I was falling apart. After confronting Emily that night, everything changed. She sat there, trying to act innocent, blaming me for invading her privacy and accusing me of being insecure. She even had the nerve to say I was overreacting, that I was just jealous of Richard, that I was paranoid for no reason. I wanted to punch her, but I held back. Instead, I just stared at her, feeling a mixture of disgust and heartbreak. How could she lie so easily? How could she pretend everything was fine when she was sleeping with her boss behind my back? The worst part was that she kept trying to turn it around on me. She said I was controlling, that I didn't give her enough attention, that she needed someone who appreciated her more, that she still loved me but was just confused. She told me she was sorry, but her words felt hollow. I knew she was only sorry she got caught. She was planning her escape, I was sure of it. She was already talking about divorce, about splitting our assets, and I could see the sneaky look in her eyes whenever she mentioned what's fair or what I deserve. I knew she was secretly plotting her way out, and that made my stomach turn. For days after that, I couldn't focus. I kept replaying everything in my head. I found myself obsessively checking her phone, her emails, her social media. I wanted to catch her in another lie, another slip-up. Meanwhile, she kept acting like everything was normal, cooking dinner, going to work, pretending to be the loving wife. But I could see the cracks in her facade. She was nervous, fidgety, constantly looking over her shoulder. I started noticing small things, her deleting messages, hiding her phone, changing her schedule at the last minute. It was obvious she was trying to cover her tracks. Then I found out she had been secretly planning the divorce for months. I stumbled across a bunch of emails she'd sent to her lawyer, discussing how to split everything, how to hide some assets, and even mentioning a new life somewhere else. It hit me like a ton of bricks. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was preparing to leave me, to take everything she could and start fresh. She had even talked about getting rid of the house, or at least reducing my share. That's when I realized I was in a war I didn't even know I was fighting. I felt the rage boiling up inside me, not just because she cheated, but because she was so calculating about it. She swore she still loved me, but her actions said otherwise. She was lying to my face, pretending everything was fine while secretly building her escape plan. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. For years, I worked hard, paid off the house, saved money, and trusted her. And now I was facing the reality that she'd been planning her divorce for months, probably even before I found out about the affair. It was like I'd been played for a fool, and I hated her for it. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just sit around and let her walk away with half of everything, especially not after all the sacrifices I'd made. I started talking to a lawyer, gathering evidence, planning how to protect my assets. I also started thinking about how to fight her in court if it came to that. I knew she was trying to manipulate the situation, but I wasn't going down without a fight. I had to be smart, strategic. I couldn't let her take everything I worked so hard for, especially not her lies and betrayal. Meanwhile, Emily kept up her act, acting like she still loved me, but I could see through the cracks. She was bitchy, dismissive, and sneaky. She'd throw little jabs, act annoyed when I asked questions, and always had an excuse for why she was too busy or didn't have time to talk. I felt like I was living with a stranger, someone who had been plotting her escape the entire time. The trust was gone, and I knew that from now on my life would never be the same. The question was, how much more was she willing to lie, and how much damage had she already done? That's what kept me awake at night. After I gathered enough evidence and talked to the lawyer, I realized I needed to act fast. Emily was still acting like everything was normal, but I knew her plans were moving forward behind the scenes. She'd been pushing to get the divorce finalized, even trying to manipulate the house and our savings in her favor. I couldn't let her just take half of what we had built, not without a fight. So I started planning my next move carefully. One afternoon, I decided to surprise her at work. I wanted to confront her face to face, see her reaction, gauge her lies. I went to her office unannounced, and when she saw me standing there, her face instantly froze. She tried to put on her usual bitchy smirk, but I could see the flicker of panic behind her eyes. I told her I knew everything about the affair, her secret lawyer meetings, the divorce plans. Her reaction: she rolled her eyes, dismissed me, said I was overreacting, that I was jealous and insecure, that she didn't need to explain herself. She was entitled to her happiness, even if it meant betraying me. I felt a mixture of anger and disgust. How could she sit there and lie so blatantly? I told her I was done playing her game, that I had evidence and I was prepared to fight for my share of the house and savings. I warned her that I'd be consulting with my lawyer and that I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything. Her response: she scoffed, said I was being dramatic and that I was ruining everything. That she deserved to be happy, even if it meant ending our marriage. That day, I left her office feeling more determined than ever. I knew she was trying to manipulate me, to make me feel guilty or insecure so I'd back down. But I wasn't going to let her do that. I started drafting my own legal strategy, making sure I had everything documented. Her secret emails, her plans to split the assets, even her attempts to hide money. I also contacted a private investigator to watch her, just in case she tried to sneak out or hide more evidence. I had to be one step ahead. In the meantime, Emily's attitude shifted. She became more bitchy, more dismissive, and even more manipulative. She'd snap at me for asking questions, accuse me of trying to control her, and throw around accusations that I was jealous of Richard or that I just didn't understand her need to be happy. I could see she was trying to gaslight me to make me doubt myself, but I refused to be played. Every time she tried to turn things around, I just stayed calm and collected. I knew I had the evidence, and I knew I had the law on my side. One night I caught her trying to withdraw money from our joint account, something she shouldn't have been able to do without my approval. I immediately called the bank and froze the account. That was a wake-up call for her. She started to realize I was serious. I also started talking to other lawyers, getting advice on how to protect my assets and ensure I got what I deserved. I wasn't going to let her screw me over without a fight. Meanwhile, the emotional toll was mounting. Every day felt like walking a tightrope. I was angry, betrayed, and hurt, but I knew I had to stay focused. I was angry at her for lying, for cheating, for planning her escape behind my back. I was hurt because I still loved her, even after everything I found out. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity, like I was finally seeing her for who she really was. And that person wasn't the woman I married. She was someone else, someone who had been sneaking around, lying, and plotting her escape for months. I kept reminding myself, I built this life with her. I paid for that house, I saved that money, and I wasn't going to let her take it all without a fight. I was ready to go to court to fight for what's mine and to put an end to her manipulations. The worst part, I knew this was only the beginning. The real storm was coming, and I had no idea how much more I was going to have to face. But I was determined to stand my ground, no matter what. The days following my confrontation with Emily became a blur of legal meetings, hidden cameras, and sleepless nights. I was trying to hold it all together, but inside I felt like I was unraveling. Every time I thought about her lying, cheating, planning her divorce, I'd get this sick feeling in my stomach. It was like betrayal had become a part of me now. I couldn't trust her anymore, not even to look me in the eye. And the worst part, she kept up her act, pretending everything was normal, acting like I was overreacting, like she hadn't been secretly screwing her boss behind my back for months. I hired a private investigator just to keep tabs on her. I needed to know if she was hiding anything or trying to sneak out. Turns out she was still meeting Richard even after I confronted her. The pie caught her sneaking into a hotel downtown, just a few blocks from where she said she was working late. Seeing her in those photos looking so guilty made me feel sick. It was like everything I thought I knew about her was a lie. All those years we spent together, building a life, and she was just using me as a backup while she chased some fantasy with her boss. I also started digging into our finances more deeply. I wanted to know exactly how much she was planning to take, how much she'd hidden, and what her real plans were. I found out she'd already transferred a chunk of our savings into an offshore account, probably to hide it from me. I was furious. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was about someone trying to steal from me, betray everything we had built. I was starting to see her for who she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who thought she could lie her way out of everything. Meanwhile, Emily kept up. Bitchy attitude. She'd snap at me over small things, accuse me of controlling her, say I was just jealous of Richard. She kept trying to gaslight me, make me doubt myself, but I wasn't falling for it. Every lie she told, every excuse she made just made me more determined. I knew I had to stay strong, not let her manipulate me into giving up or backing down. I wanted justice, and I wanted my fair share. She could lie, cheat, and manipulate all she wanted, but I had the evidence. I had the law on my side. One night I sat down with my lawyer again. We mapped out the strategy for the divorce proceedings. I made it clear I wasn't going to let her get away with everything. I wanted the house, the savings, and I wanted full custody of our dog, Max. I told her lawyer I was prepared to fight her for every dollar, every asset. I also made sure to get a court order to freeze her offshore accounts and any other assets she was trying to hide. I wasn't going to play nice anymore. She had pushed me too far, and now it was time for her to face the consequences. I also started reaching out to some friends, people I trusted, to get advice and support. I felt like I was walking through a storm alone, but I knew I needed allies. Some of them told me to fight hard to make sure she didn't get away with any of it. Others warned me that she might try to turn the court against me, play the victim, or even lie in her own claim. I had to be prepared for all of it. I knew she was cunning and she'd do anything to get what she wanted. The emotional toll was intense. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see her true nature sooner. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry, more angry than I'd ever been in my life. I had trusted her, loved her, and she had thrown it all away for some affair with her boss. I kept replaying the moments we shared, trying to find some reason or explanation, but all I saw was her selfishness, her bitchiness, her lies. I realized I had been living with a woman who wasn't the person I thought she was, and that realization hurt worse than anything. But through all the chaos, I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her destroy me or take everything I'd worked for. I was going to fight for what's mine. I was going to stand my ground, no matter how much she tried to manipulate or lie her way out of it. I had a plan, and I was sticking to it. The worst part, I still loved her deep down, but I knew I had to put that aside if I wanted to get through this. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that mattered was protecting myself and making sure she didn't walk away with everything. The court dates started coming faster than I expected. I was ready, evidence gathered, legal counsel sharp, and my head clear. Emily, of course, tried to spin her version of events, blaming me for everything, claiming I was controlling, jealous, insecure. She threw out accusations about my behavior, trying to paint me as the problem, but I had everything documented. Texts, emails, bank transfers, proof she'd been planning her escape for months. I knew I had the upper hand, but I also knew she'd pull every dirty trick in the book to try and screw me over. One of the most shocking moments came during the initial hearing. Emily, with her bitchy smirk, tried to claim she still loved me and that the affair was just a mistake, a one-time lapse, that she never intended to hurt me, that Richard was just a work friend, and that I was overreacting. The judge wasn't convinced. My lawyer presented all the evidence: her secret emails, the offshore bank account, the hotel receipts. When Emily was asked about her plans to divorce, she tried to deny everything, but her tone betrayed her. She was caught in her own web of lies. The judge ordered a temporary freeze on her assets. Her lawyer protested, claiming she deserved her fair share, but I was determined to get everything I could. I knew she was trying to hide money, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I also pushed for full custody of Max, our dog. It sounds small, but Max was my last connection to the life I thought I had. The judge granted it, citing her ongoing affair and her manipulative behavior. That was a small victory, but it made me feel like I was finally taking back control. Emily's reaction. She was furious, acting entitled, throwing tantrums in court. She accused me of trying to ruin her, of being jealous, of not loving her enough. But I just sat there, calm and collected, knowing I had the evidence and the law on my side. I knew she was trying to guilt me, but I wasn't falling for it. I had been betrayed, yes, but I was also fighting for my rights, my house, my savings, my dignity. Meanwhile, I kept working with my lawyer on the finer details: how to split the house, how to handle the offshore accounts, and how to prepare for the final divorce. I knew this wasn't going to be easy. Emily was cunning. I could tell she was already planning her next move. She started trying to manipulate the situation, calling me controlling and jealous, trying to turn friends and family against me. But I refused to let her see me break. I stayed focused, kept my cool, and stayed one step ahead. Every day I felt the emotional weight grow heavier. I was angry, betrayed, and deeply hurt. I kept asking myself how I could have missed all the signs, how I didn't see her true nature sooner. But at the same time, I knew I couldn't dwell on that. I had to keep fighting. I had to protect what was mine. I had to make sure she didn't walk away with half our house, with all that money, and with the life we'd built. She might have been bitchy, manipulative, and dishonest, but I was determined to come out of this with some sense of justice. Looking back, I realize how much I've changed through all this. I trusted her, loved her, and believed in our future. But her actions prove she was only out for herself. It's been a brutal lesson in betrayal and how someone you love can turn into a stranger overnight. I can't say I'm completely healed or that I won't carry this pain forever, but I do know one thing. I'm not going down without a fight. I will get my fair share. I will stand my ground. And I will move forward even if it's just one step at a time. Because no matter how much she hurt me, I refuse to let her win. The final hearings were a whirlwind. Emily's lawyer tried every trick in the book: more lies, emotional appeals, even some outright accusations that I was the villain. But I had the evidence and I had my lawyer. When it was my turn to speak, I laid it all out: her affair, her plans to divorce, the offshore accounts, her manipulations. I saw her try to hold back tears, but I knew they were fake. She wanted sympathy, but I wasn't buying it. I told the court how she had betrayed everything we built, how she had lied to my face for months, and how I deserved to keep what was rightfully mine. In the end, the judge awarded me the house, the savings, and full custody of Max. Emily's attempts to hide assets failed, and the court ordered her to pay me a fair division of the joint accounts. It was a long, exhausting process, but I finally felt a sense of victory, bittersweet but real. I knew I'd lost some of her, but I gained back my dignity and what was mine: the house, the savings, and the knowledge that I fought for what I deserved. Emily was furious after the verdict, but there was nothing she could do. Her bitchy attitude, her manipulative lies, her sneaky plans, they all backfired. She tried to guilt me, to make me feel like the villain, but I stayed firm. I knew her kind. She'd always try to come out on top, but this time she'd lost. The court's decision was final, and I was finally free of her web of lies. After the dust settled, I took some time to reflect. I realized how much this betrayal had changed me. I learned that trust is fragile and that sometimes the person you love most can turn out to be someone you barely recognize. I also learned that standing up for yourself, no matter how hard it gets, is the only way to come out ahead. I'm not perfect, and I still carry some scars, but I'm stronger now. More cautious, maybe, but also wiser. I moved out of the house shortly after the divorce was finalized. I rented a small apartment nearby, just enough to start over. I kept Max with me, my loyal companion through all this mess. I focused on rebuilding my life, one day at a time. I got a new job, started spending more time with friends, and slowly the pain started to fade. I didn't expect it to happen overnight, but I knew I'd survive. Looking back, I realized that I was lucky. I fought for what was mine, and I didn't let her betrayal define me. I learned to trust my instincts again and to never ignore the little signs of trouble. Most importantly, I learned that even in the darkest moments, you have a choice. You can either let it destroy you, or you can use it to become stronger. So if there's any advice I can give anyone going through something similar, it's this: trust yourself. Gather your evidence. Don't be afraid to fight for what's yours. And most of all, don't let someone else's betrayal break you completely. You're stronger than you think. And in the end, what matters most is your own integrity and your ability to move forward, no matter how hard it gets.